Well, let's find out. Roll a 20. We got a 12. Creators destroyed by an internal conflict. And perhaps this could be a coming about. So we have the dungeon is located on a promontory created by a lich. And it serves a function or a purpose of being a maze. And it is hosting a cult of evil deity worshippers. And that this maze was lost, or at least the creators were destroyed by an internal conflict among their own people. And it seems that this might be coming back around. An incubus created it, the same one that the town's governess is in love with, and won't allow anyone to hurt him.
Ah.
Then the question becomes, does she know that he's an incubus? Or is he just a really good-looking drow? Because now we are getting into NPC creation. We're getting into villain creation. Of course, we're going to be doing that tomorrow night. Not that we can't think about it now. Absolutely we can. What if the dungeon is in the crystal like a house of mirrors? Hey! There we go. Now, there's other things here for you to consider. Factions within the dungeon, the ecology of the dungeon, things about how to make your encounters difficult, easy, or how to spread them out. Ways of looking at that. The different dungeon features, walls and hidden doors and all this. A lot of this I'm not going to go over, not right now anyway. This is more stuff for actually getting to the dungeon. But what I wanted to do is go through these exercises and get a little bit more information now. And you all are having some really good ideas in that regard. So, a maze created by a lich on a promontory. Used by evil deity worshippers. And what was that other? Yes. Original creators destroyed by internal conflict. Maze in the crystal, like a house of mirrors. Is it used to train the tough warriors and give them laser tattoos? Spoiler, are we creating White Plume Mountain all over again? If we are, it's completely unintentional. Another question. Is the Lich evil? Or even a Lich at all? People might just refer to him or her as a Lich. Maybe that's what this character wants everyone to think. But is he or she really? What if we just have a very old elf, a very old drow, that actually just kind of looks dried up and mostly dead? Only mostly dead. So all this is now tagging back into the things that we have generated. And now what I'd like to do, let's draw this out. Let's have some fun. So first things first. We know that we have grasslands, and we know that we have an Arctic setting as well. Every society needs a source of water. Now, from what you all were talking about, that source of water could very well be a hot spring that the city is actually built upon. And so what we might see... Let's see. Hot springs are from some volcanic activity. We have... Okay. How about this? Oh, of course, a maze and whatnot would have a puzzle room, especially if you want to test the strength of your warriors, not just their physical strength, but their mental aptitude as well. So in this Arctic region, we can say that there's the old remnants. Hot Spring Lake with a couple of islands, one being the prominent... Marlboro, you and I are syncing up in thought here. Oh, the crystal refraction heats the water, or a combo of both. So if we do this and we create kind of an old... volcanic range here. And so nestled in, and so we could put some topographical lines here. Kind of sheltered from the blasting Arctic wind on one side, or at least like the majority is on this one side here, that ends up kind of sloping down and out this way. And so we didn't get the mountain prompt, and that's because this isn't necessarily just a mountain. This is just the remnants of an igneous crater that emerged. And so now on the interior here, we'll just do it this way. We'll connect things, and then we can make waterways. All right, so in here we have a hot spring. And the hot spring can pour out from this crater, maybe in a series of waterfalls. Wouldn't that look really fantastic even? You know, so maybe there's like a courseway kind of coming down one, and some waterfalls coming out this way as well. And of course they give off steam, and it all just sort of like flies off the side of the mountain here. Have to increase the thickness of my lines here. And of course, this could also turn into some terraces for rice farming if we still want to consider this to be an Oriental style. And so in between these topographical lines, we can always sort of fill in. We can fill in some of these areas here, and then of course they'll spill into each other, and maybe even traveling up the rice paddies through a series of locks means that boats can come and go. So while this is a raised hot spring lake, this kind of pools. This kind of pools and slithers away, eventually forming a river that maybe also meets up. So if weather's coming in from this direction here, then a lot of the snow melt and everything might actually accumulate. So we'll probably have like a big waterfall coming down this way. This is Bob Ross does. Make the noises. They absolutely help. And so there's actually a cold, a warm that does freeze over. Maybe there's still some warm water. And so there's actually a lake over here that hugs the basin, and that the rivers actually merge and drift down. And remember, water is absolutely lazy and will take the path of least resistance. And so it's going to flow here, and the lake is going to just flow further and further south. Whoops. That didn't work out too well. Dysfemist, if I pronounced that correctly, thank you very much for the follow. Hey, the Face of Jericho, good to see you. Yep, MS Paint, we're keeping it simple, Jericho. Oh yeah, I bet there's a ton of fog, Marlboro Man, which adds to like a good part of the delivery as well. Oh, well, hey, then thank you for following again for the first time. Now, we can ask ourselves, why is it that the... There we go. Why is it that the water in this grassland area is coursing down this way? Well, it would indicate that there is a slope. You know, so that the land is tilted coming down this way. And if we want a promontory, well, we can have the upper part of this ridge is the promontory, which of course looks over. This could be like the Stormbreak promontory or something like that. Or there could be little foothills that exist out along this way. You know, you can kind of fill it in like such. So there's nothing necessarily like super impressive. Actually, these should be in this color. But this was a part of the old lava flow. You know, there's these ridges that collect water. Maybe there's unique animals that live here. And then we could just go through. And if you want to fill them in like this, you may. Because if we're using the topographical lines, it'll show that this is pretty much static. But we're showing little hills here. Or if you want to keep them that color and simply fill in the hills in a different fashion, you're welcome to do so. You could put, you know, if you want to say that this is igneous rock instead of black, you could or instead of gray, you could simply go black here, because there's you know what, granite and onyx and pumice and such. In fact, maybe this place is there's floating stones of pumice. This place is known for it. So of course that comes down that way, and what that means now is we kind of have rocky areas around the base. You know, where it's been chipped away, or it's just, again, the lava flows. The water is probably following the path that the lava took. Lava, lava. A lava, lava. It's a Matty Art stream, yep. Using a traditional mouse and MS Paint. Basalt, thank you, Basalt also. Yes, the crystal, absolutely. And I have a new mouse pad. I have a Deadpool mouse pad. I'm just gonna keep it at that. I got it as a gift from someone who apparently knows me too well. Now, when we're talking about this possibly being a bamboo grassland as well, if you're calling this good, then oh sheeps, come on. Now let's see. There's a lot of we're saying that this is Arctic. So we're gonna come over here. And we can... There's probably a lot of snow buildup on this side. And things are probably... we can actually indicate... Let's do this. We can indicate that the water here is frozen. Let's see, it's definitely cooled off by the time it's here. So there's at least like a frosty cap. So let's do this. Like this. And then this is going to flow out this way. It's going to mix here. So it's probably going to start right around here. And this is going to be our frosty water. While this is still going to be... ahem. While this is still going to be our hot springs water coming through. Hey Carl, welcome. So a lot of the bamboo is going to grow on this side where it's perhaps more sheltered, and we can indicate bamboo with our green, and we can actually do something else as well, and then we can show that a lot of the ice and everything is built up more on this side of the mountain. On my side of the mountain. If any of you remember reading that book? Was that assigned to any of you in school for your literature class? So let's see, the weather's coming in this way. So it's blowing around, and so it's really it's gonna come this way, and then it's gonna swoop out this way. That makes things look really bleak, doesn't it? But don't worry, we can add to this. Now, what this is going to mean is that we have our, however you want to indicate it, we have our bamboo forest, or our grasslands per se. And of course, we're saying that maybe in heavy weather, bamboo grows exceptionally well in many environments. But that the bamboo can almost be grown or curved to then create these tunnels when the snow is especially heavy. And as we continue then to signify that this is our bamboo area, we can take a color it's not an art term, well, whatever, it's strong against green. And if we want to indicate that there's a path, then we can have a path. Perhaps there is a little boat dockage. You can go up these locks of the hot springs rice paddies to come up. And there could even be a winding road, one that takes you up here. Some old town road or something like that you take a horse on. And so we can create, a lot of people might travel by water. However, the shelter is going to extend this way. So at some point off the map down here, our road is going to split from alongside the river. And it's going to come up this way. And it could continue on into, you know, maybe in the summer when a lot of this melts. However, it also splits, and you can make it through this kind of rough, gravelly area and take a road, like a switchback road up. And you see how this stands out against this igneous black? Maybe this also has like a switchback road. And this navigates through the hills. And there's one more road. And we'll just have a switchback road going up. Oh, apparently I triggered those sheeps. And so, of course, we're talking about things like some torii gates and whatever. So this is perhaps where the bamboo actually kind of grows over the road. And so on maps, it's generally indicated that the bamboo is a shelter and not just a source of food and building material. And you know what? Having bamboo in this case... Having bamboo in this case be close by would be very, very good for a society like this that does require a sturdy building material, but given the interesting, you know, climate in which it exists. We have this animistic religion as well, and so the bamboo shelter along this highway could almost act like torii gates. Which are Shinto in origin. And then we're going to indicate more... not that this never, you know, gets snowy, but when we're talking about grasslands, it's on the side where the mist pours down off of this crater. And so oftentimes, I bet this bamboo has ice crystals hanging off of it in beautiful patterns. And so there's probably names for it, you know, like the ice crystal garden. And think about the light that comes off of that main crystal that we talked about, which was the weird locale. And think what that would do over a location that sparkles with frozen fog on all of these different sized areas. So the bamboo probably still grows out, you know, resisting the snow before it gets too bad, like really, you know, kind of at the edge here. But just to indicate that, you know, there's still growth this way, but it's really gnarly and really wintry out this way. When I have a song in my heart, I gotta sing it. I was a bard in a past life. Well, I'm glad the bard did what it needed to do to get you incarnated into this life. See, and we all make fun of bards for doing that. In this case, it gave us those sheeps. All right, so out here we might have other things that are significant. We could indicate that there is there's a hill out this way. We can put some topographical lines. We can indicate, you know, a lot of different things. We can just keep it blank if we really wanted to. You could come through with a spray paint tool and just kind of give a soft little sparkle onto the snow out this way. Completely up to you. But we have represented now We have our grasslands, which we're saying is bamboo. We have our Arctic area. We've built this into a tribal, a feudalistic society of Ainu, or similar, a native peoples of sort of an Orient bend that have established their city in a caldera lake that still simmers with heat from an ancient volcano that blocks the driving snow and wind, that is populated by drow, but drow who fled because they don't worship the traditional drow pantheon. They worship Elistray. And then come the Stygian tieflings. Yeah, it could be patchy grass and rock, so you could come through and indicate patches of things. I mean, heck, if we wanted to remember, there's nothing saying, this is just indicating like bamboo grasslands. There's nothing saying that on this side, you know, if this is how the hill has come up, right? If we're doing topographical indications, technically we'd have to do this. Because what goes up would also go down. And so if we put topographical, watch this. Let's say we do that. Now let's take our gray lines and we come through like this. You can see by the presence of those lines that generally, we'll say it kind of cuts off here, otherwise the water would have not flowed that way. But we can keep things white to indicate that it's actually the snowy side, and that storms and such tend to blow over. Like that. And now this is saying that there's kind of a ramp up. It starts out, the ramp starts out like this and quickly goes like that. And so what's having the wind do is the wind and snow are being blown up this way, keeping everyone in the little caldera here like safe as it blows over here to the bamboo. Does that make sense to you all? Yeah, we're getting topographical here, oh sheeps. The hidden shrine may be buried in the snow side. Now, so I think what we should put, though, because we had that prompt that we rolled, right? There's a giant crystal shard protruding from the ground somewhere. We're talking about how the heat could be helped and the light refracted. So maybe at this point, some kind of, because this is a former volcano, you know, various elements and crystalline, I was about to say crystalline entities. That's Star Trek Next Generation. Completely different, or is it? So we have a giant crystal, and let's indicate that with a hexagon. And to make it stand out against the black and white here, we're going to make this a nice kind of a dark purple. And so this is the giant crystal that is protruding from the Caldera Lake, the Caldera Hot Spring. And if you want, you can even come back through and kind of, you know, gussy it up. Woo, there it is. Look at that. Taking this map to the hills. Now also, if we're not calling these locks per se, but these are rice paddies, we can also come through and apply maybe a different color to indicate as such. You know, we can kind of segment these off. And then we can give them kind of a brackish color or something along those lines to indicate that it is agriculture. Now, what else? A ruined or toppled circle of standing stones, which we were saying, you know, maybe it's something like a Stonehenge. It could be like the Eskimo, the Nanook statues, that are put up, that are these human hunters that invoke, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, that invoke the spirit of the hunt and the spirit of the people who live in the north there. There's also a plundered burial mound or a pyramid as well. We have our crystal. I'm kind of thinking out here on the Arctic side. Do you remember do you remember in Game of Thrones? Because of course we've invoked it. It was the hand of the first men or something, which was like a circle of stones beyond the wall. That was that meant something to the Andals, who were the first men to Westeros. Old Ebenezer's or cairns, and we'll get to that shortly. We can create. Let's go back here, and so while this is more of a gentle slope, what if there's this used to be like a volcanic chimney? And so we're going to have it be super steep and super tall, right? If the space between every line is like 20 feet or whatever, 50 feet or whatnot, having the lines closer together is indicating that you have a steep rise as it's coming to this like a volcanic chimney. In fact, it may even still smoke for all we know. It might. It actually might be a signal. People take it as it means something. So we do that. Of course, at the top layers here, we come back to sort of exposed or this bald, igneous rock. But at the base, it's still kind of rising up, and the snows collect. And so here, we will put a point of interest where we have this circle of stones. And here we'll do this with a 6-pointed star to indicate. Many times it's if it's not the Star of David, and many other times it's connected to arcane symbolism and a star of power in some way. And so why don't we put that here to indicate? There we go, nice bold yellow color. Set off against the black here. That it's very difficult to get to. This is where that circle of stones is. Not all of it, no. I have not seen the last 2 seasons. So that's the ruined or toppled circle of standing stones, and of course, who or what toppled them. There's also a plundered burial mound or a pyramid. And that could be in the, out here. It could be, if we're talking a burial mound, could it be an island? Actually, I think one of you even suggested, if the city itself is perhaps built on like, bamboo, it's like a stilt city, right? It's like a Venice, but it's on a freshwater hot spring. Though it's probably very nutrient rich, very mineral heavy water, despite being freshwater. Probably interesting creatures live in there too. We could have something like that burial mound is actually on an island. So let's indicate. We'll indicate the main city. The main city is going to exist probably here where it's closer to these tiered rice paddies, and of course there's the roads that are coming up this way. And so, built upon stilts, the majority of this city, or it doesn't have to be like a super advanced metropolis, exists here. And we do have a road that comes up this way. Maybe this is where the water is very deep. And in fact, we can indicate sort of reverse depth if we wanted to, and put nautical topographical lines here. But we can indicate that maybe this is a deep area that has something special going on in it. In fact, this is probably where the hot water is bubbling up from, and if you go down deep enough, well, there it is. So if we do this, now all of a sudden we know where the deep part of this area is, and so the community, another part of the community anyway, might jut out into it here, and also be kind of a gatekeeper. And then we'll come back here and just show that, you know, the deep water still flows. Is there a water monster in a deep end? Well, anytime you go swimming in the pool, that's naturally the case. Could be brackish. Yeah, it could be brackish because of all the mineral. Yeah. Yeah, a burial isle. That's what I'm thinking, oh sheeps. And so what we'll do is we'll take the not deep orange road color, and perhaps this burial. Ah, here we go. We talked about pumice. Pumice is a volcanic rock, an igneous rock that floats. We have an artificial floating island right here in the center at the deepest point. You know, if we have a circle of stones here, and one of them floats. So we have this artificial island that's meant to take the dead and submerge them down into the depths. So maybe it is a circle, it's a ring, some kind of whatever sacred geometry might belong to them, on this floating island made of pumice. And this is a plundered burial mound or pyramid. So the ruins exist, and they might even still use it in that regard, but it seems like whoever was here first. Well, something happened that toppled these stones. Something happened here that this place was plundered. Call it the drain. All of a sudden, the people who die here, they're not Eskimos sent out on icebergs. They're treated like goldfish and just flushed down the drain. Now, a couple other things that, at least to us as Dungeon Masters, we should note. There's a hidden shrine to a fiend or an evil deity. Where would that be? Is that actually... Were the stones toppled? Or rather, because they're toppled, their sacred protections no longer held up, and this is where the... this religious building is? A hidden shrine to it's out. Like people don't really always go up to the top of the mountain and look back down. And this is on the Arctic side. And if we're saying that this belongs to a fiend or an evil deity, and we're talking about Stygian halflings, it might make sense. In the tavern's basement behind the supply room, that's the first place they'd look, though. Or is it? Now, I'm not going to go through and map the city. This is just showing that generally there's structures that exist here. I mean, I'd take the square tool and just boop, 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 put them all in here. First place I look around the room, the first place I look is around the room when I walk inside. But gaming saying not if you have a busty barmaid. Well, welcome to the Tumbled Wench, everyone. Ah, so Oh Sheeps might be immune, unless she herself is, ravished by her own looks. Are you doing it for yourself, Oh Sheeps? You know, primped, you gotta... You know, lift and separate. It's all for me, darling. So there we go. I mean, you look at this and you're like, it looks so blank. Well, it is, because this is Arctic wasteland. We could put the patches in, rocky patches. If we want, we can absolutely have like a little waterfall coming down the back way. Maybe it's so warm it kind of melts an ice tunnel through, and there's actually frozen water on this side. There's warm water underneath it, but it's cold enough on the other side. You know, so this could come down and we can fill out a little, you know, sort of like an ice pond that exists at the base of the mountain here. But you never see the water actually pour into it because it's all beneath the ice. We can fiddle with this map forever and a day. But the basics are here. We have the things that we generated, and now, by looking at this map, as simple as it is, as a dungeon master, we can start thinking, okay, so the tavern might be here. We've already placed where these other aspects are. What can you see from where? Where do things take place? We talked about this crystal, perhaps refracting moonlight or daylight to help keep things warm or looking beautiful. We added imagery of the mists from this warm water pouring down the side, especially from the waterfalls, because you're getting a lot of waterfalls down here as well. And so, as the dungeon master, you can see this in your mind when you're looking at a simple MS Paint map, and as you're describing it. So imagine this, right? As you're describing this scene, I'm going to reduce this down a little bit to... All right, so as you're describing this scene, and your players are entering, you know, they've been traveling to the north or south, depending on which Arctic you want to go. They start seeing that this bamboo is growing, and in particular, as they reach the area in which these people live, it looks like the bamboo, perhaps not naturally, has been grown and kind of intertwined together, providing a shelter from the heavy snows that are falling. And in between the shelters, you can see the mists pouring down the side of... you can see the mists pouring down the side of this great crater, this caldera lake, as well as the warm water that's overflowing the basin. And then you can talk about how the bamboo just has the constant ice crystals gleaming in the sun. And then, of course, the refracted light from this great prism that is ensconced or grew out of the natural minerals at the peak of this place and is extremely visible. You know, just casting in a prismatic array of colors, sparkling through the bamboo grasslands. And then as the bamboo are waving in the Arctic, and the gentle Arctic winds on this side of the mountain, you know, the ice crystals break and they fall and tumble down slowly, still continually reflecting the beautiful light. And even if they're coming in under the light of the moon, even the moon itself, its light is refracted, and everything is still lit up. And a very faint, almost aurora borealis-like glow can be seen as the refracted moonlight plays through the constant warm mists of the mountain water as it pours off the side, lighting up the sky in a bevy of colors. I had one of my players, a level 3 bard, try to seduce a busty barmaid, not knowing she was a level 20 bard. Oh. And so did you play it off like, yeah, keep trying? Or, you know, did you, that was a good line. How about this? And power chord. Oh, I love you. Bamboo would probably be a very good building material for living next to waterfalls because of the moisture. Everything else might get mold and break down faster. And you can, and even if it does break down quickly, it grows very quickly in return. And if we're saying that the water is very mineral rich, the bamboo over time as it dies might actually end up fossilizing because it's soaking up the water that has the minerals in it, and so it's getting reinforced. Oh, that's awesome, gaming. Absolutely. I think you said, what, you have a binder of 300 characters or something? Well, look at that. From this simple MS Paint, picture, this map that we made, could you see the mists pouring off this mountain? Could you, in fact, here, I'll even, we have some heroic music. I think we have something we can use. It was 300 last. Oh, you made more today, so we're up to 400, huh? Hey, Bubonic One. Well, wish me luck. Interview just before noon. Hoping to do well. Bubonic, hey, please. I hope you do well. I hope you get this, because this is the one that that will give you an IT certification too, right? Gaming makes characters I like. I collect husbands. Why do they have tough warriors? What are they protecting? They might have to be... well, so the warriors are either tough because they are... the warriors are treated kind of like rangers that go beyond the wall. Again, if we're gonna bring up Game of Thrones, we can lean into it here. And so the warriors are actually more like rangers, and they have to toughen themselves against the cold. And of course, we're bringing in these Oriental influences, so they train underneath waterfalls and they meditate. And they're tough physically because they have to climb mountains. They have to swim, and a lot of them probably have to navigate through the bamboo grasslands as well. Or they could be protecting just particularly busty barmaids. There could be a special type of fish that might enhance physiques, and it manifests in men with muscles. And in the women folk in other ways. But yeah, it's the warriors could be 8 weeks, 9 weeks to 4 months. Oh, okay. Oh, thank you, Sheeps. Well, look, it's a law of physics that that smaller, think like planets and right, like the moon. The moon and the gravity to the Earth, the moon is attracted to the Earth because smaller objects are attracted to larger objects. And so eyeballs are very small spheres that oftentimes are attracted to very larger spheres compared to them. And so honestly, it's just a matter of physics. It's completely scientific. The town my Friday, Saturday group in is I have 40 named NPCs with character sheets drawn up. So it's just in case, it's all about the law of attraction. There you go. Yeah, and curves apply to Crumb Draw Day. Hey, have a good night. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for conversing. You had some really good thoughts, and I'm very happy that you were participating in tonight's workshop. So you hear this, you hear the cawing of birds, the constant rust. In fact, here, you keep this map in mind. And if you want to go through a role play exercise, try this. As a dungeon master, try this. If you're preparing for a scene or something like this where you've made a map, I'm going to turn up the volume of the music. And I just want you to listen to it with your eyes closed for like a minute. And then I'm going to begin narrating the scene that you see. And I want you to tell me, is it evocative? Is it descriptive? As a dungeon master, have you actually pointed out some very good things that the players should know without highlighting them too severely or obviously? So, all right, everyone. If you'll humor me, here we go. You can't see my face. I'm going to mute my mic and turn up the volume I want you to listen to the music with this environment in mind. Party is riding in the wagon another day. The snow crunches beneath the wheels and the hooves, and you huddle up closer. You knew where you were going, and you did bring heavy blankets, but still the chill coming from these grasslands just gets into your bones. Birds, hopefully not a sign of ill omen, flapped from the tall grass. Bamboo, you were told it was called by a local guide, instructing you on how to reach this location. Looks like a snowstorm's going to be blowing in. Hopefully you can beat it to the city. Feet turn to yards, yards to miles. The storm approaches. The wind is howling, and you can hear snaps and breaks in the bamboo that's around you. The first flakes begin to fall, and despite the gray, you can see a massive shape through the fog. The mists. Where's the mist coming from? But it disappears out of sight, as the bamboo now seems to shelter you from the snows that fall. And as you look, traveling along this path, the bamboo has been grown into arching shapes, knots and arcs, perhaps things that have meaning. They creak, much like your wagon's wheels do, under the added weight of the snow and the winds that do howl down off the side of the mountain. And every once in a while you catch a glimpse between the shelters. Beautiful sight. Looks like while snow is coming down, the majority of the storm is blowing up and over. The hood of the mountain, this lake in a cauldron, is deflecting the force of nature itself blowing from the northwest. In its place, a magnificent sight greets you. Mists pouring off the side, waterfalls, and through it all, despite even the cloud cover of the storm, a spray of colors dancing through the roiling mists, playing much like the water does off the side of this caldera lake, and even lighting up the frozen, frosted bamboo through which you're traveling, creating a hallway of colors and effects and sparkles. One more thing to draw your breath away from you, if not for the cold or the other sights. You make your way to what looks like a riverboat. But the river would take you back the way you came. The guide bundled up, much as you are, greets you. And you begin taking the ship up a series of locks up the side of the mountain. Water raises your boat level by level, and you travel through fertile paddies of rice and other grains that have been cultivated to grow here. An aquaculture, if you will. You rise ever higher, and yet, as you're rising higher, you see the snows blowing. It's getting even warmer. You actually shed a layer, and the riverboat guide chuckles. When you finally reach the top of the lake, you see ambient steam and the greatest heat that you've felt for a good long while. Not enough to be uncomfortable, but definitely unexpected. And there, on miles of stilts and floating platforms, houses, businesses, families, merchants, lives living out their days in this interesting location. You're dropped off by the ferryman, and at that point, he says, "Welcome to..." Welcome to where? What's this place called? Did you like that exercise? Did you like that narration? Did it bring this simple MS Paint map to life in front of you? I mean, we did this in what, 15, 20 minutes? And yet, was I able to give you imagery that you could reproduce for your players in a similar circumstance and have them just take in that imagery from even such a simple picture as this? O'Sheeps wants to call the place Winter Stilts. Okay, I'm not against that, but are there any other names that you all would like? Because if nothing else, we can sort of cross-mogenate them as well. Raz, from all of our random prompts, yes. We're leaning that this is a kind of a feudal Japan, and even going back a little bit more primitive, this is more of an Ainu, like their native peoples. So think feudal Japan set in Hokkaido with native peoples. I'm also being a little facetious because of Winterfell, so please, by all means, take another name. And of course, you know, in the local dialect, it might be known as whatever, and then translated to the common tongue, it is Winterfell, or Lake City. It can even be something as common as that, as Lake City. Remember, so this is a city built on stilts and floats in a hot spring that is produced in a caldera lake, located in an Arctic area, rising above a bamboo grassland. As well, it is populated by a big minority is oxymoronic. A minority of drow who, ever since the Stygian, the cold tieflings, have moved in, have actually been working with them to get a new lease on life, so that more of their kind may be produced, and then, of course, the tieflings get a longevity boost from it as well. Misted Heights. You did a good job then. That's what I got from the descriptions. Well, I'm very glad then, Raz, and thank you for participating in that, and letting me speak into your ear for a little bit. The only thing my brain is able to focus on is the Monster Hunter expansion tomorrow. Oh yeah, speaking of frosty locations, right? So, Raz, did any sort of a name for this region or this city come to mind? So it's sitting in a hot spring caldera lake. There's a giant crystal that has formed perhaps out of the volcanic activity that used to exist here at the peak. The main tavern in town is called the Mystic Star, and so that might have played into things. Of course, the town could have been renamed from. It can either be an old name from Elvish or Drow, in particular, or it could have been renamed into something infernal for the Stygian tieflings that live here too. And I will share a fun technique for all of you out there who are yourselves aspiring dungeon masters. We are going to visit thesaurus.com. And when you do this, put in something like Cove. Anchorage, Arm, Bay, Bayou, Bight, Cave, Cavern, Creek, Estuary, Firth, Gulf, Harbor, Hole, Lagoon, Nook, Retreat, Slough, or Slough. Well, there's slough like you're sloughing off skin. Sound, Wash, or Frith. Or if you want to go on something that's like winter. Now, it's Arctic, so it's not always winter, but maybe that they just say it's winter. Cold, chill, frost, wintertime, Jack Frost, or wintertide. What about volcano? Bluff, cliff, elevation, peak, pile, ridge, sierra. Abundance, alp. Bank, butte. Crag, dome. Drift, eminence, glob, heap, height, hump, mass, mesa. Mound, mount, palisade, pike. Precipice, pyramid, range, shock, stack, ton, tor. This is a great way not only to expand your vocabulary, but if you're looking for names and you want it to sound out of the ordinary, you know, so Palisades, if we go to dictionary, Palisades are sticks. Offensive pales or stakes set firmly in the ground as for enclosure or defense. Any number of pales or stakes pointed at the top and set firmly in the ground in a close row with others. So it could be something, the something Palisade, or hey Jim, welcome. So who goes there? Furware. PogChamp. Is that something Furware would shout? I'm glad you like that prompt, though. And it's good to see you back here, Jam. It always is. So if Palisade is talking about the people that are floating or structured in this city, is there something else? I mean, we could simply call it the Palisades. Nothing wrong with that. Keep it simple. It is very there are very many random elements in that Jam. Very deliberately when I was programming that command. So we have Palisade. So now what if we go to Does it even need anything else? Palisade might just be enough. Palisade. It's simple, it's descriptive, describes what it is. The Palisades are a culmination, right? It's defensive, and there certainly is a defensive aspect to this city, not necessarily just from the Palisades, but from the rock. And then the Palisades are keeping the city afloat, adding to defense as well in their own regard. And it is what it is. An enclosure for defense, and it's just a number of stakes pointed at the top. You can probably presume a lot of people are trained with the spear who live here. And there we go. There's our town. There's our map. We have the location of our dungeon. I really like the idea that it might be like a mirror, a maze mirror, and it's going to involve the crystal that's so integral to this area. And from there, of course, that might just be the entrance to the dungeon. We might end up going to this evil temple that exists over here. Well, it's a repurposed. It used to be a sacred standing stones like a Stonehenge or like Nanook's. And then it was desecrated. It was desecrated by an evil cult that moved in. And then, of course, we have the floating island of pumice out here. And this is where people are committed, their bodies are committed to the depths of this simmering caldera lake that's a hot spring as well. So, James, we're kind of having a hot spring episode in anime terms. Because certainly you can find rest and relaxation. In fact, people probably come here just for that. I mean, you want the hot spring monkeys? Put the hot spring monkeys in this area too. You know, if we're taking Hokkaido and Ainu inspiration, absolutely. There could be other reptiles or mammals. There could be interesting fish, or there's definitely some sort of a big lunker in the deeps here. But there's a lot here for us. And our dungeon, now that we know the area, our dungeon can be more important in various ways. What do we want to highlight? Where do we want to go? Is our dungeon going to end up with a Goonie-style water slide that's going to see us crashing down and tumbling out of a waterfall into the river? Is it going to see us exiting out from a secret snowbank to trudge through the Arctic ice and snow and cold to only climb the perilous peak of the promontory, and other P words, or words that don't even have to begin with P, to get to the fallen stones in order to reclaim the stones for righteousness? Or maybe that's just where the boss fled to and you got to take him down. I do not like the deeps. The heckin' water monster can stay there. So just stay in the shallow end or the rice paddies then. The water there should only come up to your knees. So there we go, everyone. Did you like this? Did you like this exercise? Everything that we look in the course of about 3 hours, we have just created a wonderful place that is vivid. It does have a culture that we can begin to imagine, that we can think about the architecture, the structure. We've tied it culturally to, IRL cultures that exist in our world, which can make things easier. Nothing wrong with, inventing one of your own. You're going to stay on a stilt building. What if that's just what it wants you to do? Not falling for that one again. I know the shallows aren't any safer. You just got to do the stingray shuffle. The stilt building is a giant mimic! No, says O'Sheeps. That's when you just you close your DMG and you just say, and they were never heard from again. Alright. Well, everyone, the workshop has been complete, and I wouldn't mind shutting things down. I know it's a little earlier than normal. It's only 2 a.m., right? Ugh. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. By the way, O'Sheeps, we tried playing TKO last night after the roleplay game, and it didn't give us the link again. So it might be permanent down.